Let me ask you something. How many times have you watched someone less competent than you get promoted? How many times have you seen liars, manipulators, and emotional predators rise to the top while you, the honest one, the competent one, get passed over? Here's the brutal truth. 67% of workplace promotions go to people who master emotional control, not technical skill. The most successful people aren't the smartest or the hardest working. They're the ones who've mastered something you haven't. Emotional detachment. While you're drowning in anxiety, anger, and fear, they're operating from a place of cold, calculated indifference. They don't care what you think. They don't react to provocation. They're psychologically untouchable, and you're still letting your emotions be weaponized against you. But what if I told you that a Roman emperor, a man who commanded legions and conquered nations, left behind a psychological operating manual that reveals exactly how to become emotionally invincible? Today you're going to learn the 9 ruthless rules that will transform you from an emotional pawn into a stoic predator. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Someone insults you in a meeting, and hours later, you're still replaying it in your mind. Your heart races. Your stomach tightens. You can't focus on anything else because that comment has hijacked your entire nervous system. Or maybe it's your boss. They criticize your work unfairly, and suddenly you're defensive, emotional, explaining yourself like a child being scolded. Meanwhile, they're watching you unravel, and they're learning exactly how to control you. Here's what's really happening. You've been programmed to be emotionally reactive. Society trained you to express your feelings, to be authentic, to show your emotions. They sold you vulnerability as strength. And while you were busy being authentic, the predators in your life were taking notes. They learned your triggers. They mapped your emotional vulnerabilities. They turned your feelings into weapons against you. Every time you react with anger, you lose power. Every time you show fear, you broadcast weakness. Every time you seek validation, you hand someone else the remote control to your nervous system. You're not failing because you're incompetent. You're failing because you're emotionally transparent. And in a world full of psychological manipulators, that makes you prey. The people winning around you, they're not more talented, they're more emotionally detached. They've learned to operate from a place of cold indifference while you're still bleeding emotions for everyone to see. But here's the good news. This can change. Today, Marcus Aurelius, remember that name, because this wasn't some self-help guru or motivational speaker. This was the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world, who spent his nights writing the most psychologically devastating manual for emotional control ever created. While ruling an empire, fighting wars and dealing with betrayal, plague, and constant threats to his life, Marcus developed a philosophical framework so powerful that it's been studied by military strategists, business leaders, and psychological operators for nearly 2,000 years. His private journals, now known as meditations, weren't written for publication. They were his personal psychological training ground, a place where he forged himself into an emotionally invincible force. And here's what most people don't understand about Stoicism. It's not some peaceful, passive philosophy about accepting your fate. That's what weak people think Stoicism is. Real Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius's Stoicism, is a ruthless system for psychological dominance. It's about becoming so emotionally detached that nothing can manipulate you, so mentally fortified that insults bounce off you like rain off marble. Marcus understood something fundamental about human nature. Whoever controls their emotions controls the interaction. Whoever remains calm holds the power. Whoever can detach from outcome and wins. He turned this understanding into 9 concrete principles, 9 rules that, when applied ruthlessly, transform you from an emotional reactor into a strategic operator. These aren't suggestions, they're psychological weapons. Rule number 1, Marcus wrote, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Most people find this cynical, but here's what they're missing. This isn't pessimism. This is preemptive emotional armor. When you expect nothing from people, you can't be disappointed. When you assume betrayal is possible, you're never caught off guard. The person who gets emotionally destroyed by betrayal is the person who never saw it coming. Marcus trained himself to expect the worst from human nature. not because he hated people, but because it made him psychologically untouchable. When someone inevitably disappointed him, he didn't collapse into emotional chaos. He simply nodded and thought, "Of course, here's how you apply this ruthlessly. Stop expecting loyalty, fairness, or gratitude from anyone. Expect people to act in their self-interest. Expect them to lie when it benefits them. Expect them to betray you when the price is right. This doesn't make you a misanthrope. It makes you prepared. And prepared people don't get emotionally devastated. They adapt." Rule number 2. Here's a truth that will change everything. Your feelings about a situation have absolutely nothing to do with the reality of that situation. Someone disrespects you, and you feel angry. But that anger isn't the truth. It's just a chemical reaction in your brain, a leftover survival mechanism from when social rejection meant death. Marcus understood this deeply. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Most people are enslaved by their emotions. They feel anxious, so they believe something bad will happen. They feel insulted, so they believe they've been diminished. They mistake their emotional reactions for objective reality. But emotions are just stories your nervous system tells you, and stories can be questioned. When someone insults you, your ego screams, "Defend yourself. React, show them." But Marcus would ask a different question. Does their opinion change any objective fact about my competence? The answer is always no. Here's the ruthless application. Every time you feel a strong emotion, pause. Ask yourself, is this feeling based on objective reality, or is this just my ego creating drama? 9 times out of 10, it's just ego. Train yourself to observe your emotions like weather patterns. Interesting, but not determinative. You don't let rain ruin your day. Don't let emotions ruin your psychology. Rule number 3. This is where most people hemorrhage psychological energy. They obsess over things completely outside their control. You can't control what people think about you. You can't control whether you get promoted. You can't control market conditions, political decisions, or other people's behavior. But you can control your response. You can control your effort. You can control your mindset. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Here's what this means practically. When something goes wrong, and things will go wrong, emotional people collapse. They complain, they rage, they feel victimized, Stoic operators. They immediately ask, what part of this can I control? Lost your job? You can't control that decision. But you can control your next move. Someone spread rumors about you. You can't control their mouth. But you can control whether you give it emotional energy. The ruthless application: create 2 mental columns. Column 1, things I can control. Column 2, things I can't control. Invest 100% of your psychological energy in column 1. Develop complete indifference to column 2. This single practice will make you emotionally invincible because you'll stop wasting energy on psychological battles you can never win. Rule number 4. Most people see problems as punishment. Marcus saw them as curriculum. Every difficult person in your life, a training partner for patience. Every failure, a masterclass in adaptation. Every betrayal, an education in discernment. He wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action." Here's why this is psychologically devastating to your enemies. When you view their attacks as training, they lose all power over you. Someone tries to provoke you. You thank them internally for the opportunity to practice emotional control. Someone betrays you. You appreciate the lesson in trusting actions over words. This isn't toxic positivity. This is strategic reframing. You're turning every negative experience into psychological capital. The ruthless application. Every time something bad happens, immediately ask, what is this teaching me? Frame every obstacle as a weighted vest. It makes you stronger even though it's uncomfortable. People who master this become terrifying to manipulate because nothing breaks them. Every attack just makes them more resilient. Rule number 5. This sounds dark, but it's actually the most liberating truth you'll ever internalize. Marcus constantly reminded himself of his mortality. He'd say, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Here's why this makes you emotionally untouchable. When you truly internalize that you're going to die, maybe in 50 years, maybe tomorrow. Suddenly, most of what you're anxious about becomes absurdly trivial. That person who insulted you? In 100 years, you'll both be dust. Does their opinion really matter? That promotion you didn't get? On your deathbed, will you remember it? Death is the ultimate perspective correction. It cuts through the noise and reveals what actually matters. The Ruthless application. Every time you feel yourself getting emotionally hijacked by something petty, remind yourself, will this matter when I'm dying? That meeting where someone disrespected you? Meaningless. That social media argument? Absurd. That grudge you're holding? A waste of your finite time. When you operate from a place of mortality awareness, you become immune to small insults and petty dramas. You can't be manipulated by trivial concerns because you've internalized their insignificance. Lie. Number 6. Here's a technique that sounds pessimistic but is actually bulletproof emotional preparation. Marcus regularly imagined losing everything: his empire, his family, his health, his life. Not because he wanted these things to happen, but because he wanted to be psychologically prepared if they did. He wrote, "Do not hope for things you cannot control. Instead, prepare for their loss." Most people avoid thinking about worst-case scenarios because it makes them uncomfortable, but that avoidance leaves them emotionally fragile. When bad things inevitably happen, they collapse. Stoic operators do the opposite. They regularly visualize loss. They imagine their business failing. Their relationships are ending. Their reputation is being destroyed. And here's what happens. By repeatedly exposing yourself to these scenarios in your mind, you develop emotional antibodies. When challenges actually arrive, you're not shocked. You're prepared. The Ruthless application. Once per week, spend 10 minutes visualizing everything going wrong. Your job? Gone. Your savings? Wiped out. Your reputation? Destroyed. Then ask yourself, could I survive this? The answer is almost always yes. And once you know you can survive your worst-case scenario, fear loses its grip on you. You become the person who stays calm during a crisis because you've already lived through it mentally 100 times. Rule 7. Marcus understood something most people never learn. Words are the cheapest currency in human interaction. People will tell you they're loyal, honest, and supportive. They'll make promises and declarations. And most people believe these words because they want to. But Marcus wrote, "Watch the character of those you associate with. You'll become like them." He didn't say listen to their words. He said watch their character, meaning their consistent actions over time. Here's the ruthless truth. Someone who truly respects you doesn't need to say it constantly. Someone who's genuinely loyal doesn't need to promise loyalty. Their actions prove it automatically. Conversely, the people who constantly tell you how honest they are, usually liars, the ones who constantly promise loyalty, usually preparing to betray you. The Ruthless application: implement a 30-day action audit for everyone in your life. Ignore everything they say. Only watch what they do. Do their actions match their words? Do they show up when it's inconvenient? Do they support you when there's nothing to gain? If words and actions don't align, trust the actions, always. This single practice will save you from 90% of betrayals because you'll see them coming. Rule number 8. This is where emotional people destroy themselves. They attach their identity to results they can't fully control. If I don't get this promotion, I'm a failure. If they don't like me, I'm worthless. If this business fails, I'm incompetent. Marcus understood that this was psychological suicide. He wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Your worth isn't determined by external validation. Your identity isn't defined by outcomes. You are the person who shows up, does the work, and maintains excellence regardless of results." Here's why this makes you dangerous. When your identity is detached from outcomes, you become immune to failure. You can take massive risks because even if you lose, your core self remains intact. While others are paralyzed by fear of failure, you're operating freely because you've separated who you are from what you achieve. The Ruthless application: redefine success as process, not outcome. Your job isn't to win. Your job is to execute with excellence and remain emotionally unmoved by results. Win. Great, learn from it. Lose. Great, learn from it. Either way, you maintain the same emotional baseline: calm, detached, ready for the next challenge. Rule number 9. Here's the final rule. And it's the one that separates pretenders from operators. Marcus Aurelius, the wealthiest, most powerful man in the world, regularly slept on the floor. He denied himself luxuries. He practiced voluntary discomfort. Why? Because he understood that the more you need comfort, the more you can be controlled. If you need your morning routine to feel okay, someone can destroy your day by disrupting it. If you need external validation to feel confident, people can manipulate you by withholding it. If you need specific conditions to perform, you're psychologically fragile. But when you train yourself to be comfortable with discomfort, you become uncontrollable. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The ruthless application: regularly practice voluntary discomfort. Take cold showers, skip meals occasionally, sleep on the floor, remove small comforts from your life temporarily. This isn't masochism. This is building psychological resilience. You're training your nervous system to remain calm when conditions aren't perfect. And when you can operate effectively, regardless of comfort, you become the most dangerous person in any room because nothing can throw you off your game. So here's where you are right now. You have a choice. You can close this video and go back to being emotionally reactive. You can keep letting people weaponize your feelings against you. You can remain the person who gets hijacked by insults, paralyzed by anxiety, and controlled by fear, or you can become something else entirely. Imagine yourself 6 months from now after implementing these 9 rules ruthlessly. Someone insults you and you don't even blink, not because you're suppressing emotion, but because you genuinely don't care. Their opinion has no power over your psychology. Imagine facing a major setback, losing a job, ending a relationship, failing publicly, and remaining completely calm. Not pretending to be okay, but actually being psychologically unmoved, because you've trained yourself to separate outcomes from identity. Imagine being in a room full of people desperately seeking validation, reacting emotionally to every slight, and there you are, calm, observant, strategically detached. People notice. They sense something different about you, something dangerous. That's what emotional invincibility looks like. That's what Marcus Aurelius embodied. But here's what most people won't tell you. The world needs you to stay emotional. Your enemies need you to be reactive. Manipulators need you to be vulnerable. Because as long as you're emotionally transparent, you're controllable. Every day you delay implementing these principles is another day you're handing power to people who don't deserve it. Another day you're letting your emotions be weaponized. Another day you're operating from weakness instead of strength. Marcus Aurelius didn't write these principles to be read. He wrote them to be lived, ruthlessly, daily, without compromise. So I'm going to challenge you right now. Pick one rule, just one, and implement it for the next 7 days. Start expecting betrayal. Start questioning your emotions. Start visualizing worst-case scenarios, and watch what happens to your psychology. Watch how you become calmer, more strategic, less controllable. This is your moment. The door to emotional invincibility is open, but you have to walk through it. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to stop being an emotional pawn and start becoming a Stoic operator, hit that subscribe button. Because this channel exists to give you the psychological weapons they don't want you to have. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 9 rules hit you the hardest. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's still letting their emotions control them, send them this video. Don't let them suffer another day as prey. Remember, in a world full of emotional chaos, the calm person is king. Now go apply these rules ruthlessly. I'll see you in the next one.